So last week, the Asus ROG, sorry, ROG Ally, ROG LIX, launched. $799 handheld. It has a number of advantages over the existing ROG Ally, specifically faster memory, much bigger battery, and completely redesigned internals, even though it does have essentially the same Z1 Extreme processor. We haven't reviewed it. The preview that we've got basically tells you all you need to know because, extra memory is great. Actually, that's the key thing, really. Extra memory. There's some games that are coming out now, specifically like Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, which really do require the extra memory. The 16 gigs in the standard Ally, not enough. Ally X at 24 basically solves the problem. What was missing from our preview, hands-on, was the fact that we couldn't show our benchmarks. So we can do that now. Even though this was from an engineering sample unit, I strongly suspect that these will be indicative of the final retail unit. Going to kick off with Cyberpunk 2077. The faster memory basically gives a 4.1% advantage to that over the existing Ally running upscale 1080p at 25 watts. Forza Horizon, this one typically doesn't scale amazingly well with the faster memory, but even so, here we're seeing a 5.6% advantage, which is obviously a nice thing to have. Let's look at A Plague Tale Requiem. The benchmark sequence, another 5.4% there, which is great. And what can I say? Let's move on to the final one, Marvel's Spider-Man. Historically, this one has been very friendly with memory bandwidth, and it is the case here. The Ally X delivering 8.2% of extra performance in the initial intro scene compared to the original Ally. So even without the additional memory, faster memory just gives an advantage there. So there's a lot to love about the Ally X, I think principally because the Ally with its VRR screen effectively made it the default choice for handheld gaming, I think, on the PC space, beyond Steam Deck. If you needed a Windows handheld, the Ally was the place to be. Ally X just solves all of the problems I had with the Ally. Bigger battery, you can actually use it for a meaningful amount of time. And it's just a really, really nice piece of kit. Still got the VRR screen that none of the competitors have. Isn't OLED, but it's pretty great. So Oliver, with all of this now out in the open, as an Asus ROG Ally owner, do you consider this as a worthy upgrade, or are you happy with your Ally?
I think it looks compelling. Probably the aspect of it that I would be most interested in is just the additional grips on the back. You got to think an extra 5 millimeters of clearance in the grips. It looks more comfortable.
Yes.
Because the existing ROG Ally, it's got like some slightly sharp corners to it, and the degree of protrusion of those back handle surfaces is not so much. If you compare it to something like the Steam Deck is far deeper and gives you that more comfortable experience. And personally, I think when you're talking about lugging like a 7-inch device around with you, I think that extra depth to the device is not that big of a deal, at least to me. So I think that's what, I think they could go further with it. But the enhanced...
It's heavier as well because of the bigger battery.
Yeah, the bigger battery is certainly interesting as well. I wouldn't say I'm enticed. Like, to me, I kind of really want something that is combining the parts of the Steam Deck that I really like and the parts of the ROG Ally that I really like. And this is kind of a halfway step. Like, I really want something with an OLED screen, VRR, very comfortable grips, just like hitting it out of the park in all these respects. And to me, so far, there's no device really like that. Maybe the Steam Deck OLED comes close.
Yeah.
But in this case, in these benchmarks, it does just seem like you get a little bit more memory bandwidth. Certainly the Phoenix Point APU can use a little bit more memory bandwidth. That certainly helps. And there's a bit of an advantage there, but nothing that's revelatory. And indeed, until we see like I think we'll see the Strix Point APUs possibly in these devices at some point, that does seem, from the early benchmarks that we've seen over like the past few days, does seem faster. But in the
Yeah.
interim, it's just going to be these like little tweaks, like, oh, are you running your Z1 Extreme, your 7840U, your 8840U, whatever you want to call it, your Phoenix Point, with 7500 megahertz RAM or 6400 megahertz RAM, and it's going to be these like little tweaks here and there that differentiate the performance between the devices, but it's not actually that meaningful in the end.
The extra memory, though, I think it is going to become increasingly more important.
Yeah.
For sure, because it just seems to be the the mantra of the PC space is that generally over time there's bloat and games make use of the extra bloat. It's generally considered now that you should probably have 32 gigs of system RAM in your desktop PC. So yeah, there's games like Alan Wake that initially wouldn't. Actually, no, that's not strictly true. It was a problem with the Ally because it was sharing 16 gigs of memory between graphics and system memory, and it needed initially I think 8 gigs for VRAM and 12 gigs or 16 gigs for system RAM. They've tweaked that now. It's 6 and 12, 6 and 10 rather, so you can just about do it. But yeah, then you look at Avatar, and I just couldn't get that to work properly on the basic Ally, no matter what RAM configuration I used. But the Ally X just basically solves that. So I think it's a really nice upgrade. But I think you're quite right in that there are things that you just kind of want from a newer iteration of the machine, that being more performance and a better screen. And for whatever reasons, they couldn't quite pull that off. I'm really going to be interested to see if Strix Point actually ends up in these handhelds, because obviously it's got a sizable AI component in there. The NPU is going to be occupying a lot of die space. So, is it actually viable for these handheld manufacturers to make one at an agreeable price point? Guess we'll just have to find out. But in the meantime, I honestly do think the ROG Ally X is the best Windows handheld out there. But it's still very, very separate from the Steam Deck, which the Steam Deck OLED, which just does so many things in so many fantastic ways that it's almost like a different device in a way, despite the fact they are both x86 based handhelds. But yes, I do think it is the best Windows-based handheld, and it's certainly the cheapest one that's got more than 16 gigs of memory. The only other ones are the Chinese-based handhelds, which seem to A, have 32 gigs, and B, are priced in a significantly extravagant manner.